Hello everybody, this is PI Health. We're going to be discussing how to become a private investigator. So, let's start from the beginning. Number one, you're 18 years old and you graduated from high school with an 80 average. Okay, you chose the securities industry. The reason you chose the securities industry because it looks good for you and that's what you want to do. Don't forget, you have individuals that are on three stages. Number one stage is that they like what they are doing and they understand what they are doing. There are some other individuals who actually understand what they're doing, but they dislike what they are doing. The third one is they are clueless what they are doing, but they like what they are doing. So that is basically the breakup of the three segments of the population. The population is approximately the working population in the United States. I'm going to round it up because it sounds very nice. 250 million. We have 350 million people living in the United States. Out of the 250 million, maybe 15 to 20% belongs in the area that they like what they're doing and they understand what they are doing. That's a pretty low number. So I will touch upon that later on another video. So you're 18 years old, you graduated from high school, you kept your nose clean, you have no criminal background, you have no background in a drug industry or drugs because the drug testing today is very, very sensitive. For example, the opioid test is 300 milligram sensitivity. They can do it from saliva, from hair, from urine. I mean, there's a broad-based testing available. So you don't have any drug background. You don't have any THC background, joints. You kept it clean. Okay, so you are 18 years old now. Let's see what it takes to become a PI, private investigator. Number one, you're 18, you need your D license. The D license is basically approximately about 1 week, and then you have to go through a criminal background check, fingerprinting, etc. You go down to Department of Agriculture. Once you go down to Department of Agriculture, it depends how busy they are. You will receive your license within about in Jacksonville, approximately about 10 weeks. I'm loosely saying this 10 weeks. It's possible that it's much shorter time. It's possible that it's going to be longer time. It depends upon the circumstances. If you have missing any information, you don't have missing any information, they might ask you for some more information. So anyway, so you got your D license. Now what? Now you have to go for a job and a job interview. Now you're going to be hired. When you are hired as an unarmed security, you will actually be getting paid approximately anywhere from $12 an hour to about $16 an hour. So what do you have on your hand? Well, you have 8 hours of work, 8 hours of play, 8 hours of sleep. Wrong. Absolutely not. Well, you have 8 hours of play, now you're going to be doing the work. Now comes the work. So, because you want to be a PI, you will need what is known as a college degree or some sort of a school there is a school, it starts with a capital S, and then yes, you can get your private investigator diploma. The school is approximately about 18 months to 2 years. If you take your time, you should be able to do it, you should complete it in 2 years quite successfully. Okay, now it's part one. Now you're approximately about 20 years old. I said 2 years, 18 to, all right, so that's, you're approximately 20 years old. Now what you need is your uncle, your big brother, your mother, your father, because you need to borrow a handgun. The reason for that, because you want to become an armed security. So you need to practice. Now, the reason you need to practice is that you have to you pass what is known as a G course. A G course is basically a low-level sharpshooter. They exclude, because of a scoring system, they exclude what is known as a recreational shooter. Recreational shooter will not be able to pass the G course. So they want to pass on a higher level than a recreational shooter. They don't want no recreational shooter, and I have to agree with that. So now what? Okay, so you practiced, you went to another school, it's about 40 hours training loosely, and then you receive your certification from the K instructor. The K instructor becomes very important later on. K instructor, and then let's say you passed it with a 90 and you passed it with a 170, your score. That's fine, because you passed it. You're a little bit above recreational shooter. Don't forget. So now you're 21 years old and you applied. Maybe you can work for the same company as a armed security that you started as a unarmed security. Maybe not. It depends. Some may not have the post to work as a armed security, but then you have to switch. Okay, now what? In about 2 years later, you are on a job, you're maturing on the job, you can get your NRA certification as a basic instructor. Can you get it from a USCCA? Absolutely. The USCCA borrowed a lot of material from the NRA. Nothing wrong with it. Borrowing. They do have a lot of educational videos up on YouTube. I strongly urge you to watch all of them. And just to familiar with yourself with all the material that is actually and also there's a gentleman named Ayub, Mossad Ayub. I strongly urge you to listen to the videos that he puts out. Matter of fact, listen to all of them. Now you also need perhaps an insurance. It's called protect yourself in an insurance just in case you get into a shootout or something like that. But pay attention. There's 4 companies out there. Look it up yourself. It's up on YouTube. So the name of the 4 companies, all right? You need to get involved now. Don't forget, your major objective is to become a PI. So you need to understand all these things, and even more than you think. So you decided with an NRA, because I'm an NRA member, lifetime member. Okay, let's continue. So you got your NRA basic instructor. As time matures, you understand more the characteristics of the firearms and guns and all that other things. Okay, now what? Now you can apply when you're about 25 years old. You can apply for a K instructor, to become a K instructor. Now that's important because now you're becoming an armed guard instructor. All right, so basically you started with approximately about $12 to $16 an hour. A K instructor, as of recording, makes approximately about $25 an hour. Matter of fact, there's a shortage of it. There's also a relative shortage of good instructors, also range officers. So look into that one also. Now what? Okay. Now you have a K instructor, you have a basic instructor. Now you have to get into the 1040. The 1040 is nothing more, nothing less except your income tax. Why you need that? The simple reason, now you can open up your own small office because you're teaching individuals. You can get some tax advantages. and income advantages, some things that you can write off. This is when you come into the C, profit and loss. It's used to call C, 1040. The 1040, the C goes on the 1040. And you have the AB form. What's the long form? That also goes on the 1040. Okay, now perhaps you are thinking to open up your own agency. You're opening up your own agency. You have to understand what's an entity. There are two different types of entities, the natural entity and procedural or statutory law breeds life into it. That's what an entity is. So you have to understand basically what a business structure is. What's a 1065? Do you have a partner? You don't have a partner. That also goes on a 1040. Then you also have a subchapter S corporation. A subchapter S corporation. What happens to the subchapter S corporation? It goes again on the front of a 1040. So you have to understand that portion also. Then what you also have to understand, what are the liabilities. Make sure that you understand the exclusion. The exclusion is the one that it's very, very important. Now, it is not what you believe, and it is not actually what you think it's correct, but what the policy is. You have to understand the policy. Let me give you an example on what you think or what you believe. All right. So, you have an incident and you escort the individual out. Okay, you are authorized to escort the individual out. You are escorting. All of a sudden, you receive a phone call, and that particular phone call says, we're going to hurt you. All right, you look at the phone number, it's coming from Australia. Wait a minute. Does it coming from Australia? It's not what you believe, it's not what you think, and it's not what's written there. Maybe it's coming from your neighbor because they use a router or some sort of a forwarding, and then you receive the phone call. Wait a minute now. It says right there, Australia. Wrong. No. Then you have to understand what the belief system is again. Why? Because you believe it, but that's not what it is. In the court system, you have belief system. No, it's completely excluded. Small amount of evidence. Then you small. It's proportional. Then you have what is known as reasonable doubt. Then you have the highest standard, which is beyond the reasonable doubt. Think about this. If you are in a court system and you turn around and you're testifying, just look at that individual. He looks guilty. Even he doesn't even comb his hair properly. What kind of an individual is that? Wait a minute. We're talking beyond the reasonable doubt. Actually, the proof. Why? Because let's say it was a major robbery case. No. That belief system is thrown out on the window. What's the procedures? And what's the affidavit? Now what's the affidavit? Maybe you can, as a public notary, maybe you can take as a public notary as a affidavit. Is the affidavit excluded? For example, in a major cases, maybe yes, maybe no. By and large, affidavits are not accepted because you have difficulty cross-examining maybe affidavit. But anyway, it is a very important subject matter. Just like a lie detector is usually thrown out anyway. That's for a simple reason is that how are you going to cross-examine that? But it's a separate issue. So that's why you need to go to school to understand what are the procedures of it. Now what? Now you understand a little bit about the 1065 forms. Why? Partnership. Now, what's a partnership? All right, it's between two partners. Do you have an insurance? What type of an insurance is it? Life insurance. Okay, it's life insurance. Does it have a cash value? Who controls the cash value? What is the cash value actually? What's the value of the policy? I just make it up as I go on. Let's say you have $100,000 debt value insurance. Then what happens is it has a cash value also, because the premium on the debt value is, let's say, make it up as I go along, okay, $5,000, so $2,000 is debt value, $3,000 actually the cash value of it. So let's say it is a 10-year policy, or it can be extended. what happens to that? 10 years, that's $30,000. That's not $30,000 because it has investment end of it. So where is it invested and how is it invested? Who has control of that? So you have to understand all that. Then you have to understand what is the SSI. You have to understand what is the Social Security. Social Security disability, 10 years paid into the system, you can get Social Security in case you're hurt on a job. Except, let's say what happens if an individual is actually applied and denied. So you have what is known as a reconsideration. That's your second stage. What's the third stage? The third stage is administrative law judge. Once you go to a front of an administrative law judge, usually it stops there. The procedure as it goes forward, the case, that's usually where it stops at the administrative law judge. That does not mean some cases didn't go much higher. There are cases indeed, which I will not get into, that went up all the way to the state Supreme Courts. Oh yes, absolutely. So because it was that type of a case. But generally speaking, administrative law judge stops. The same thing happens exactly in the area of unemployment insurance. When you have unemployment insurance, you are denied. You can go actually, if you are denied unemployment insurance, you can go much higher. How high can you go? Yes, you can file for reconsideration and you can go in front of the administrative law judge on the unemployment insurance. So you do have a lot of leeway here of understanding. Now, you also must understand common sense. And common sense sometimes does not correlate with what you think is correct because of the protocols. The protocols must be followed. Can you put your hands on the individual? You cannot put your hands on it. What are the procedures? You don't want to put your hands on the individual unless it is absolutely necessary. This is now we are getting into, can you use your firearm? All right, you're becoming an instructor. You're an instructor. So how do you convey that message? When can you use your firearm? Okay, number one, do they have an ability? Number two, it is the prudent and reasonable man rule. The prudent and reasonable man rule says and states that can they cause bodily harm? Okay, that's very, very important. Can they cause bodily harm? So we have ability, and then we have the opportunity also in there. Does the opportunity exist to cause you bodily harm? And if it does, then you can use your firearm. Now, let's say you're surrounded. All of a sudden, you're surrounded by a mob in your car. You're driving the car. It happened to me, and I was also involved in an armed robbery in New York. I will talk a little bit about that. So, what happens is, when you are in the car, you're surrounded. All right, you go 5 miles an hour. You don't run anybody over, but let's say they break your windows, all right? Or if they not break your windows, they try to pull you out of the car. All bets are off. Use your firearm, but not until then. There is a stage. Number one, you're surrounded. Number two, you have 5 miles an hour. You can still drive. Your life is not in imminent danger until they actually break the window. All bets are off. Use your firearm. Absolutely. Now, as we continue of your training, you also need to understand a lot about policies, insurance policies specifically, procedural policies. You also have to understand, as I said, some of the tax forms. The reason for that of the tax form is that controls your whole environment and what's worth it and what's not worth it. For example, the B license. If you apply, for example, what I mentioned, the B license is very important. Why is the B license important? That's your first stage and step into the securities industry. Now you understand all that. Now you apply for a CC license. The CC license is basically an internship to become a private investigator. Once you have that as a private investigator, as a C, then you have to understand it takes 2 years of internship. No, incorrect, because you already have a diploma. Because once you have the diploma, what happens? Yes, that takes you can shave 1 year off. So now it's 1 year internship, and now you become a full-blown PI, private investigator. But don't forget, you started at age 18. Now you're approximately about 26 years old. So there's a time frame. Now, what's your earning capacity? Well, your earning capacity, you started, let's say, with $12 an hour, and now you're up to $35 as of recording, approximately. It does not mean that you're going to be making $35 an hour. It's possible that you might. And what's nice about this particular setup is if you don't have any $35 an hour, you can go to teaching as a K instructor. You don't have that, you can go as a G instructor. Get it? Got it? So you can also you can teach private individuals. 1, 2, 3. You can strike out on your own now. But do you want to strike out your own? Or do you want to have a combination of both? That you work for somebody, plus you have your tax breaks, and plus you have your own little side business. You can also have a CHL, U.S. Customs House license. What's a U.S. Customs House license? What can you do with a U.S. Customs House license? When I left New York, it was a $50,000 bond. You have to understand what the bond is, what you can do with that particular bond, U.S. Customs House license. What else can you do with it? Do you want to be a courier, for example? If you want to be a courier, you want to be a bonded courier. Can you attach the bonded courier, for example, to your car? When you go into the bank, for example, you go front of the bank? No, don't do anything. First, number one, you talk to who? The branch manager. Once you talk to the branch manager, you're a courier. When you come into the bank, they don't like individuals running around in the bank with a gun. Don't forget that. So what happens? Because they don't like that, you go up front of everybody else. Or you can use maybe a drive-through windows. They don't have a drive-through windows. You have to come into the bank. Night deposits, for example. You have a client that has $15,000, $20,000 of income at night. That's the income. They usually keep a certain dollar because they need it for in the morning. And then, for example, let me give you an example. You have a Chinese store. Chinese store usually take out food, small business, mom and pop shop. Let's say they have about $2,000, $3,000 a daily volume. Out of that, let's say is $1,000 in the morning. They come in and they use that $1,000 for the merchandise. So they pay the merchandise guys. Okay, that's $1,000, that's $2,000 as a rotating capital for the day. Okay, they usually hide that. Where do they hide it? Well, I have no idea. It depends upon the business. Do they take it home? They don't take it home. So what happens is when a hit comes down in these Chinese places or in a small grocery stores, or they usually do it in the morning or they do it at night. The reason for that is that nighttime, you're closing and you have the most amount of money, because you not just only have the startup money, but you also have the take in of that day, what you took in. So that's take in also added, so you have, let's say, $3,000 as a rotating money. So don't forget There's a lot of things that can go into this. Do you pick up that $2,000? Do you take it down to the bank, let's say for $50, and they might be happy to give you $50 to take it to the bank. But usually, let's say on 3 times a week, Friday night, or Saturday, or maybe Thursday. You don't know until you ask, for example, these businesses. But then you become a courier, an independent courier. And how far is the bank? How far not is the bank? I mean, you have to think of your, you have to on your own what you basically want to do. Now, basically, what I said, it is correct throughout the United States. In New York City, you also have what is known as an unarmed security license. The difference between Florida and New York is as follows. You will need OSHA certification. OSHA certification in New York is relatively simple, and you have a fire certification. Why? Because when they put you, let's say, in the area of construction, you're going to have a lot of water, you're going to have electric hazards, scaffolding hazards. You most likely you will have to wear a hard hat. So that's why you the OSHA in New York City. Your biggest problem is going to be at night if you work graveyard. I'm telling you, the rats. Oh, it is unbelievable. If you're not careful, they grab you by the collar, drag you into the hole. Not even your DNA can identify you. I mean, just that's the way it is in New York City, especially with the rats, especially with the South American jumbo rats. I think they are on steroid plus. I don't know what they eat, but ooh, it is unbelievable. So anyway, that's the small difference between New York and Florida. Also very important, can a red flag law be used? Not all states have red flag law, but how is it used? Has it been used abusively? Absolutely, it has. There's a couple of cases out there, but don't forget, not all states have red flag law, but be aware of it, especially when you are being accused of something. It is very important also. The state of Florida do have a red flag law. New York and California has a red flag law. As I said, approximately about half the states have red flag law, which is about 25, approximately. Probably there are some new red flag laws will be coming in to law, so be aware of it. But it's basically about the same throughout the United States, what I said. So good luck in your endeavor, and have yourself a wonderful day, and have a good time all the way up to your PI license. Thank you for listening.